Hello, thank you for tuning in to Circling Dialogos, and this series, or practice series, from Dialectic into Dialogos. This is our first official practice session. The last video was just an introduction. This one is where we actually go into the practice of Dialectic into Dialogos. So I'll give some context about that in a moment, but first some housekeeping. So I am really stoked and pleased to announce that the Circling Institute, right, it has 3 new offers. So no longer is time and location an issue in terms of learning circling, because we have took our first 3 programs and made them into self-study. So if you can't come to a weekend in person, or you can't make any of the open evenings, if those kinds of issues are there for you, we have a way of you learning the practice of circling that you can do on your own. All you need is a computer, and you can do it at your own pace, a self-study. So the links for that are below. And if you want to jump in and experience circling live with courses that I teach or that my colleagues teach at the Circling Institute, we have an open event every Thursday night, 7 till 9 California time, or 6 until 9 California time. We have a weekend coming up, a circling weekend intensive, all day Saturday and Sunday. That the dates on that are the 30th and the 31st. And we are open for registration for our first level practitioner training, which is a little under a year-long facilitator training, which is really the way to dive deep and kind of, you could say, take on the principles of circling and Dialogos for that matter, and make it a real, almost a spiritual practice for you. All right. So all the links for that are below. Also, if you're interested in working with me one-on-one, email me. Okay. So I am excited about this video, because this was the first time that we officially practiced Dialectic and Dialogos as this group. And we did it on the virtue of reverence. And I thought it was really, really amazing. So we give some context where we go over the instructions and the context of Dialogos in the beginning. If you missed the first video, I would suggest going back and watch the first video of this series to get more context of it, so you can understand exactly what's going on and why we're doing what we're doing here. This was really exciting. And I am so looking forward to the long-term effects of this practice and the ongoing effects of it and fine-tuning of it. Because this series is really about doing the practice, but doing it in such a way that we are tuning to the practice itself. We're listening to it and refining it, because this is a work in progress. And I think it was Sandra who mentioned something about this, that this practice was, she alluded to something like, wow, this is a lot, right? And I just want to reiterate that Dialogos, or Dialectic into Dialogos, this practice on this video, is, you could say, a culmination of a whole ecology of practices. And that this, from that viewpoint, is an advanced practice. So keep that in mind, right, as you're watching this. It's not like just anybody can jump in and do this easily. There's a lot of dynamics going on that involve mindfulness, philosophical contemplation, lectio divina, all kinds of things, intersubjective things, all those kinds of dynamics in one practice. So. But thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to hearing from your comments. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so you can get the updates when more videos come out. And thank you so much. All right. just to go over for anybody new to this, and to remind ourselves just of what Dialogos is, what the practice looks like. We'll just go over just the basics of what we're going to be doing instruction wise. So if we look at Dialogos as a word, right? Dia means through, and logos means who knows, but logos means, in the Greek sense, the gathering, the gathering through line of intelligibility, of being, right? It's something like that. And so Dialogos, we could say, is a practice in which it has a deep relationship with the logos. And we can think about through as being, we look through the logos, but there's also a sense in which we can look through things and hear the logos. So I'd say that this particular practice really is an emphasis on listening through each other's words, through everything, all the aspects that we can hear and see, through them to the logos. And in some sense, Dialogos designates, technically speaking, designates the moment where we not only look through what's being said into the logos, but in some sense, the logos becomes, in a sense, identified and lifts us up. And then we look through it, if you will, and speak it. So it's like this attuning to the logos, which is the gathering, showing of intelligibility, if you want to look at it like that. And again, Dialogos is not the kind of thing that you can do as the result of an action. We can set the conditions and the frames and the ritual, but really, if Dialogos catches, it's not the function of something we did, right? It's like the way that a gardener can plant the garden, but they can't make the garden grow. Dialogos is similar that way, right? So just to give the right reverential attitude towards the practice, right? And so what we'll do is I'll start off by making a proposal, and then Dan will be the first one who is the adducer or the listener or the midwife. And so Dan will, in a sense, listen, paraphrase whatever it is that I'm presenting in the proposal in a way that educes it out, draws it out, and even amplifies it, right? So he's kind of, in a certain sense, he's trying to draw out, listen through the words into the logos, the intelligibility underneath, and drawing it out. Now, what in the practice here is, when we're the listener or the midwife, right, is that we're not saying what I think about it. We're not referencing ourselves at all, right? The practice is really drawing out the logos of whatever the presenter is proposing. And it's not even like at one level, it's listening to what, in this sense, what Guy thinks about that. But it's even deeper than that. It's like you're listening through Guy's words, through Guy, into the logos, right? So it's not even listening to Guy, it's listening to the logos, right? That sense, that's the practice. And then once that goes out, right? So once we take some time and do that, then and we feel kind of like that we hit aporia, or I say something like, I think I'm good, right? That's where we are. Now, aporia is that point where oftentimes that we experience that when we kind of, you could say, you hit the limit of your intelligibility, right? Like you can't think anymore, or you're in some kind of contradiction that you can't think outside of. There's that kind of point that you hit. Now, we want to have a particular relationship to that aporia, because that's often can be a point of frustration. Sometimes that can be a point of frustration. And the way we want to relate to that, though, is recognizing that the aporia is good, right? That it's on one level, it's a limit, but it's also a beginning. So we want to kind of look at it like we're right at the doors of something new. right? Something that's ineffable beyond this moment that we can share. So just kind of breathe in that newness, breathe into whatever it is that's mysterious, right? That we're opening towards. And then once that's complete, and then Daniel will say, so what is, the last thing you want to say is just to complete it. So Guy, what is reference? Right. And I may say the same thing that I said at the beginning. If I do, I bet it'll have a completely new ring to it. Right. Or I may say something completely different about what reference is. Then Daniel comes out of the listening. Well, I guess no. So he's still working with what I said. Then he says Daniel goes into appreciation. What he appreciates about the proposal, right? What he anticipates about the proposal. Where does this lead to, right? What are the things that it draws in, right? And what's missing or mysterious about the proposal? And once he's present to that, then he comes into himself, and then he makes a proposal about reverence. Reverence is, and then somebody else will be the listener and repeat. So rinse and repeat throughout. And the thing I'm going to recommend is like lean on the side when you're making a proposal to the proposal being in relationship to what you just heard, right? Like, I think that's the thing that we want to kind of draw out on. It's more like we're listening to what virtue is, right? We're not so much saying exactly expressing ourselves in terms of what we think about something, but more like what we're hearing, like listening to it, right? Sound good? All right, sweet. All right, so let's take a second. Drink my last little bit of coffee. All right, Daniel, are you in the listening position?
Okay. I am.
I'll get in the proposal position. All right. So so reverence is the virtue that we're exploring. Okay. So reverence is reverence is a way of relation that aspirationally it's like aspirationally realizes the felt reciprocal relationship with God. Spelled both ways. God with one O and two O's. So God and good, the good.
Okay. So I'll just repeat that back to you. As reverence is it is the way of aspiration that helps us.
Actually, not exactly. Reverence is the way of relation. It's a way of relation.
So the way of relation that helps us to aspire to the reciprocal opening with God, with the God and the good.
Yeah.
When you were doing this aspiration, you were really putting the stress on this aspiration, as if you're drawing out what was going on there.
Well, as I've just been like living with reverence through the week, this is where if I just take it all away, this is where I end up. I'm like, when we really rev. So revs, it goes like this. All right, rev. Well, one, it has to be in relationship to something. So it's like, so even prior to the reverence, there's a relation constituted, right? So, and when I follow that, I go, okay, so if I'm the one that's irreverent, let's say, to God or whatever it is that I'm revering, if I really revere all the way, there's like an emptying of myself and a disposal to the other, right?
Mm.
And if it's so full, if I go rev, there's a certain kind of point where I'm like the same. I end up just being the thing I'm in reverence, Ben, and then being that. If I flip over into the thing that I'm revering, here's the revered looking at me, revering it, and there's this. It's like this reversal back and forth. So that's
Mm. So just what I'm hearing you say is that just in this little gesture that you made, there is this very deep interpenetration going on. That was by the way very cool when you enacted it. I just appreciate that a lot. So what's going on when you look at the God or the good? How does that shine back into you?
this is the mysterious part, right?
Mm.
Like, because I would say that I'll put it like this, because what's mysterious, especially if I look horizontally, and let's say that I'm the one who's going to exercise the reverence, right? And so I look upon something reverential, right? But I'm already in reverence in order to do that. But where's the reverence come from then? Right? Is it coming from the thing I'm in reverence it, or is it coming from my own capacities? So there's something mysterious to me that's prior to that, that even brings, that I would imagine is part of reverence, that's mysterious to me, right? That, and I would imagine this this looking up is actually revealing of something, and
Mm.
why it's a virtue is because it somehow announces my already constitution as a human being, right? Which is, I am, in some sense, it's like I'm thinking about, I can't stop thinking about Eckhart, right? In the sense of like this way where when you revere, it's in some sense you are doing it with your kind of ontological poverty, right?
Mm.
There's an emptying of
Mm.
self and a releasement of self that in some sense, like it aspires towards what it's reverent towards, yet it also expresses my very clearing, my very emptiness, my very poverty
Mm.
in the deepest, most reverential sense, right? So there's a
Mm.
disclosure of myself towards
Mm.
what is higher than me or bigger than me, right?
Mm.
It's a that, but it's strange because it's a disclosure and a releasement of myself, really, something like that.
When you held your hand like this and kind of like gazing upward, how does this posture or this kind of way of holding, how does this feel like?
Oh, yes, it feels. It's interesting. I'm just getting the sense of the horizontal reverence there's a verticality that it expresses. Like, I think because I feel that there's something innate to this, like to be the self that I am, or to disclose myself to myself, is to be looking up like this, right?
Mm.
There's something like that, like there is a verticality, right, to my being, right?
Mm.
Something I can fall from. I can become irreverent, and this is what's interesting about, like, no, not irreverence, because irreverence isn't the opposite of reverence. It's hubris. It's arrogance. So in some sense, when I am arrogant or I'm lacking in reverence, right? In some sense, I'm losing touch with this verticality, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
fallenness from myself.
So what I'm hearing you say is that reverence has to do with this, let's say, innate verticality to our being.
Ah, yeah, yeah. Fact. I want to see if I can update the proposal. We can, and then we can, and we can then we can move on. Let's see. Okay, so reverence is the aspirational realization of, I would say, the verticality.
Aspirational realization of the verticality.
And my, yeah, and yeah, the verticality of being.
Hmm. Are you happy with that
Yes,
proposal?
yes. Good start.
Yeah. Okay, then I will go into appreciation now, if that's all right. So I appreciated about your proposal and also your proposing that you were really right, this in this, right, you said in the beginning that this way of relation, then this way of aspiration, and even in this little gesture, you kind of like, right, there was already this direction upwards, and then in your proposing, it became gradually clear that this verticality holds a lot of importance, and that reverence has to do a lot with that verticality of being, and that also our being is there's a very intimate connection that the virtue of reverence helps us to foster, let's say, to this verticality. So now I have to now I want to ask you if you felt heard
Yeah,
during.
totally. And to,
Great.
and I felt heard, and I felt like I heard reverence.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, now I will say what's mysterious. Or let me just, what's mysterious? What's mysterious for me now is, Guy, you were also right. You were talking about horizontality, and that somehow if we keep stuck, let's say, with horizontality, that we may fall into arrogance, let's say, or hubris. But then kind of like, and you were saying, right, the aspiration realization. Now I would, right, of the verticality. So now I'm what's mysterious for me now is how we can kind of like turn our gaze away from just from that horizontality up to that verticality, and then how maybe reverence helps us to also reenact that turning.
Hmm.
And I like even when I do
No, I like that
like
reenact.
even
Yeah.
in the aspiration, yeah.
Finally, something I can spell. Whatever this word is. Mm.
So, are you ready for a proposal, Daniel?
Yes. Um, So my proposal is, and I will build it off from Guy's proposal. It is the aspirational realization of the verticality of being that that and in doing so, if we do this aspiration properly, it I don't know, it eases or it soothes the kind of just the verticality, the everydayness, everything that's the, the, everything that's automated in our being, maybe everything that's also maybe imperfect or perhaps even corrupted in our being, maybe our past or of our things that we did wrong in the past, and reverence helps us to also come into a right relationship with that horizontality, maybe.
Also, something like just in terms of the practice, as the listener, at any point, if it gets too much to hold in working memory, just raise your hand and go pause, right? And stop and then follow. Just I wanted to remind us that.
Thank you. So what I heard, there was a lot there. But what I heard was the that it's an act of aspirational realization, that the aspirational realization is a kind of aspiration to realize, that and that is an act that I can do to realize what is already maybe not apparent to me at the time, but if I do the action with that aspiration, what is apparent, what is the verticality, reveals itself.
Yeah, so the verticality, but right, the verticality is it's already there. It's holding us right now. We're kind of like we do not notice it because we haven't attuned our way of seeing towards that verticality.
So there is the verticality is already moving in us. It even if we're not aware, and it moving in this movement, that we maybe start out with this in our aspiration to realize, but that movement is innate to us because of our
So yeah, so it's innate, and that this I don't want to say will or desire, but there is this innate turning upward to, and this is our natural inclination also. And yeah, what I'm still a little bit puzzled about is then this relationship between the horizontality and the verticality. It's kind of when I'm doing that right, and I'm holding myself into that uprightness, what is it doing with the horizontality?
Yeah. So there's a point of mystery in this movement in that moves this way, and you're wondering about where that what is the origin of that movement, the is it the you or the this, or what is it that's a mystery to you?
Yeah, not right. The origin as well as the effect of all of this.
The effect, the origin, and the movement as the effect of it.
So what when I do this movement, kind of what is afforded by it?
What is it? What is the where does this movement lead to? What, right? When what is that the mystery is twofold. It's about what.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
That's good. It's twofold. It's both origin and future come into question. But if I yeah, if I just now that this, if I do this holding in reverence, right? It seems that the present becomes almost sacred, and it kind of like it origin and future become they open up. They open up and they disclose possibility.
So if you're not, putting your attention on this, but rather on this, paradoxically almost, the movement comes on this expansive.
Yeah.
Expansion and
it's like the verticality. It's like it opens the horizontality. It makes the horizontality become spacious and free and open and then that's just what my body wants to do now. Is really wants to do this. Becomes kind of like again this kind of like field where then this blossoming that we evoked in the very beginning, that can occur and happen. Like I really have this. I just want to do this. Like
I'm so what I would. The word fulcrum comes into my mind. It's sort of like how I see you enacting it is the vertical and the horizontal appear to be, like different, but you, as you experience the movement and you become the fulcrum for this verticality to fully express itself, and it's infusing you with this movement.
So now I would like to make a new proposal. So reverence is the I really like that with the fulcrum. So maybe I can say it. Reverence is something like that is the virtue that gives us or lets us cultivate the innate capacity to midwife the verticality into the horizontality. And in doing so, in aspirationally realizing this verticality, we become the midwives for so that the horizontality can open or realize itself or something like that.
Can you maybe summarize that?
The proposal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Once again, okay. So reverence is the virtue that lets us it helps us to realize the verticality in aspiration. And in the very act of aspiring, we bring it, we bring, let's say, the verticality back into the horizontality and help to help the horizontality with opening, expanding, freeing.
Okay, let me see. I'll try this, Daniel, but I may not get it all. You're saying reverence is the virtue that 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 allows us through our aspiration
Mm.
to turn our aspiration. The aspiration initially was going this way, but now it's been turning this way. So it allows us to turn our aspiration to its almost proper home, so that that can shower down an expansion of being.
Yeah, and I would just add that doing this is innately good. And that is also, I think, the reason why we want to turn upward, because it's innately good. Doing this there's a goodness to it that cannot be explained away in a sense.
Yeah. So the innate goodness of this action, of this aspirational impulse, is such that even if we start out on the horizontal, we're drawn, almost magnetic. It's like a magnet. We're drawn because of the innate goodness of it. It reveals it almost inevitably reveals itself in this vertical movement, so that it can then bring this into
this openness, spaciousness, back to the horizontal, to the here now. So
Is that? Are you happy with that?
I'm happy with that.
Now you ask him if he feels heard.
If you feel heard.
Yes. I feel heard. And thank you for your listening.
Yeah.
Now you go into appreciation,
Yeah.
anticipation, and then what's missing or mysterious.
Yeah. So what I'm appreciating is, well, first of all, I appreciate the words that 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 form this. I appreciate your love of words, Daniel, for one thing, and I appreciate the way in which the thing itself has worded itself and actioned itself through the exchange and the the thought and the care that you show, that you aspire, that part of the aspiration of, and as I'm saying that too, that your your addition of the goodness at the end, that the goodness of it, it's sort of like the innate goodness of it reveals itself through these the tools, the individualness that we bring, that you bring, and through the enactment, and I just appreciate all that.
Thank you.
I
Was there
appreciate
anything
how it's moved.
Mm,
So yeah, I mean, it's moved.
mm.
It's appeared. It's shown its face.
Before you go,
Was there any?
I'm gonna get a pen. I'm gonna get a pen real quick,
Sure.
because I'm gonna be.
Was there anything mysterious?
Oh, what's mysterious? Ah, yeah. Yeah. I find it mysterious that we are twofold. I find it mysterious that what I find mysterious is that we have we all have this, this myopic um, uh, way of being in the world at the same time as this is innately operating within, at the very same time that this is operating in us. I find that so mysterious. Did you miss that guy?
Just if you want to
Yeah,
just summarize the last thing he said.
yeah. He said, "What do I find mysterious?" And what I find mysterious is that we all have both this myopic way of approaching, everything at the same time as this indwells us
Mm.
innately. Yeah.
Indeed.
What I find mysterious is that we don't know already. This is already there, but we don't know. That's what I find mysterious.
Right. So Sandra.
Hmm. Do I have a proposal?
Yes, and I'll just start with Sandra. What is virtue? I'm sorry, not virtue. What is what is what is reverence?
Reverence is the acknowledgement of the indwelling paradox of our imperfection and our simultaneous perfection.
Reverence is the acknowledgement of our imperfection and simultaneous perfection.
Yeah.
Reverence is the acknowledgement of our imperfection and simultaneous perfection.
Yeah.
So just hearing me say that back, anything you want to say about that?
Well, I feel as I'm hearing you say it back, actually there are tears forming in my eyes. That there's
What did what did the tears
sense of.
understand?
I'm sorry.
What did the tears understand?
The tears understand the the beauty and the humility and the glory of that that core of of beingness for me. The beauty, the absolute stunning beauty of the yeah, I forget what I said after beauty.
You said a lot in just your, I would
Oh,
say, this is the, I would say, whereas I was making, Dan was making hand postures, your everything was happening in your face to me.
oh,
You're just like, the whole thing is this, you
yeah,
were
yeah, yeah,
like this, like it
yeah, like
tears,
wow, yeah,
understood the
yeah,
beauty, the
wow.
riveting beauty.
Yeah, riveting, riveting is right.
Right.
Like, could there be anything more beautiful? Like awe, yeah, of, yeah, yeah.
Is it, if we say reverence,
Hmm.
is reverence as you proposed it, revering right now?
Yes,
In
yeah.
this,
And when I said acknowledgement, I mean acknowledgement is sort of like an act of will,
yeah,
but the reverence that I am experiencing now is not an act of will. It's just a, a, an act of reality to
yeah,
me. It's just reality
right.
to me. Yeah,
So
yeah,
the
yeah,
act of just reality reveals both our imperfection and our perfection simultaneously.
mm, mm. The fact of reality. The
Fact of
fact.
reality.
Yes, the
Fact
fact
of
of reality.
reality reveals. So reverence is the, is it, it reveals, does it, like reverence reveals the fact of reality, revealing my imperfection and perfection simultaneously.
Mhm. Well, yeah. Now reverence. Um, yeah, I'm back to reverence as an acknowledgement because I have a choice of actually looking at this fact of my imperfection and I have that choice. I can choose not to look, but if I choose to look, yeah,
So you're saying
then
there's a, it's an acknowledgement
yeah,
of looking at the
yeah,
fact of reality, revealing
yes,
my my imperfection and perfection
yes,
simultaneously.
yeah, 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 yeah. And in that, the in that that through I mean, it's not as if I'm separate from this.
Yeah.
This is what
Yeah.
I am. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So this is what I am. Is this the thing that you could look at or not look at?
I could look at it
Yeah.
in a particular way. This happens anyway, but
Yeah.
how I look at it is my
Okay. So
choice.
how I look at it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the acknowledgement,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is reverence is the, is it fair to say the acknowledgement, right, of the fact of reality, which simultaneously reveals my perfection and imperfection at the same time.
That's right.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so curious about this way, like this way of looking. I love that you said that. I love that you said that. Yeah, there is a choice here. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a virtue, right? Like what makes it a virtue is this aspiration, right? And so, in some sense,
Mm.
it starts off with the way I look,
The
right?
way I look.
So
Yeah.
it's an
Yeah.
acknowledgement,
Yeah.
right? What draws the way to look?
Mm-hmm. Isn't that so interesting? Because I take off my glasses,
Yeah,
this, this, that John talks about, that the way I look is is determined. I mean, I can consciously change the way I look by consciously adopting the practice of examining that. Otherwise, I don't realize that I'm looking through these.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
have to take them off to say, how are these,
Yeah.
affecting my way of looking? So that that practice,
Huh.
is, yeah, I can do that practice. If I don't, maybe by some grace, you know, I suddenly find them on the road and okay, I look at them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if I say, okay, I'm going to look at how I am looking at things.
I'm going to look at how I'm looking at things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So so there's
What's
something about the way, right? It's the so reverence, going back to this, the
Mm-hmm.
what was the beginning phrase again? Reverence was the I just lost it. Reverence was the what was it, Daniel? Is it realization or
Yeah.
The
realization?
aspirational,
Oh,
the aspirational realization
yeah,
of the verticality, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's the aspirational realization of reality, revealing both my perfection and imperfection simultaneously.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
The aspirational realization of reality, revealing my perfection and imperfection simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing I was in response to my question, you were like, well, what is it what has me look? What has me realize? Right? What is that?
Mm-hmm.
And what you said is has to do with something about, well, that's it. It's like what has me look at my glasses,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's a mystery.
Mm-hmm.
There's a mystery there.
That's a mystery.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a mystery.
So I want to go back to something, just this this gesture that you have with your face as you were present. What I think I saw, it was you were presencing reverence, and in that moment it seemed like you were looking right at reverence itself, and were revered by reverence, right? And then you said, you like basically you said something about the beauty, and the tears understood the riveting
Mm-hmm.
beauty, right? The
Mm-hmm.
tears understood the riveting beauty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm
The,
wondering,
the
yeah,
drop down to your knees kind of beauty. That's
yeah,
reverence,
there it is.
dropping me down to my knees.
The dropping down to your knees of beauty. I'm wondering about this. Are there any glasses that you could have that could disclose that fully?
Maybe momentarily,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
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 maybe momentarily. But
yeah,
I occupy this.
yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna say I'm gonna say one more time what my understanding of the virtue as we've been going over here. So reverence is the aspirational realization of reality, revealing both my perfection and imperfection. Anything else you want to say about that? And if you want to repeat that, or is that the one? What is reverence?
Well, as you're saying that, the imperfection and perfection, I'm I'm getting a kind of image of the overarching perfection of it all. Of yeah, of just yeah.
And if you just, I noticed when you went like this, the overarching perfection of it all, right? And you went like this, and then you sat back. Anything else you want to say about this?
All the beauty and all the horror.
All the beauty and all the horror. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So anything do you want to say the aspiration again?
The the
Reverence?
virtue,
Yeah.
what reverence is.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say again or add to or re-say?
So reverence is the virtue whereby my aspiration to realize the imperfection and perfection of reality is enacted in me.
So reverence. So reverence is the aspiration
Is the
to
virtue
realize.
the virtue whereby
Okay.
my aspiration to realize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reverence is the virtue whereby my aspiration to realize
the
imperfection and
and
perfection
simultaneous perfection
simultaneously enacted
is
in me.
enacted in me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Do you feel heard?
Yeah, I feel not only heard but accompanied, I think. You know, like accompanied.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, just really accompanied. This is
Right.
yeah. It it it's somewhat a hard path, and I would never attempt it on my own, but I feel accompanied.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna go, and there's so much to appreciate here. So I think so I just want to say that final one again. So it's reverence is the the enactment of my aspiration to realize the simultaneous perfection and imperfection enacted in me. Yeah. Reverence
Is the virtue whereby
is the virtue whereby
I aspire to realize.
whereby
Is the virtue whereby I aspire to realize the simultaneous imperfection and perfection.
the simultaneous perfection imperfection. Yes.
Yeah. Of of being.
Virtue whereby Sorry, my pen ran out, so I'm
Oh
like,
dear.
my second one. It's just this conversation is too hot for pens.
It's a day
Yeah.
of pens running
So I'm sensing the thing I'm appreciating about this is, well, one is right away I felt like virtue was present, right? Like virtue was what was, or I'm sorry, the I keep
The
interchanging
virtue of
something interesting
reverence.
about that. Yeah, reverence, right? Reverence
Yeah.
was present, and I felt the sense in which you were reverent with reverence, right? And in some sense, I felt like most of what we did was recognize that together in that moment. And I kept noticing this and sitting back. Like the more you realized, I appreciated that, the more you realized what you were reverent of, the more you sat back, right? And the exploration of that there's a participation. Well, also, I also really loved how participatory, right? This was like, um, and also I appreciated the way you distinguished. There's a choice here, right? Like there's something going on that if I look, and the choice is to look, I don't have to look, right? But if I look, reality is in such a way that it will reveal all of this, right? And the question I had was, how is it that how do you know to look? Right? And it was more of a sense of the way to look, right? How do I look? If there's something about looking at my own glasses. So this is the thing I want to pick up on, right? Because here's what's mysterious to me is this sense of how is it, okay, what reveals that choice to look, right? And there is a sense in which it's something that it's like it seems whatever it is that reveals that choice to look, right, and enact the reverence, right, has this connection with taking off my glasses, is looking at my looking in some sense. And in some way, I feel this strange way that there's that part of reverence that has breeds a kind of like, it just drops, it knocks you on your ass, right? Like if you're really reverent, you're all the way down. As you said, drop to your knees. There's something about the humble part is precisely getting a glimpse of something I am not capable of seeing, right? That this being dropped to your knees with reverence is, there's something about that that seems key and mysterious to me, right? Of this, because in some sense, as I'm kind of looking into it, in some sense, you need reverence. It's there's a dichotomy here, right? Because reverence is seeing what I'm not capable of seeing yet, if it's really worth revealing, right? This, what the hell's going on with that, right? How could I ever even come to see it if I'm not capable of seeing it? And the very seeing of it reveals that I am not capable of seeing it, but there's a breaking apart that happens there that drops me to my knees, which is me in reverence. So okay, all right. That's what I'm appreciating, and that's what's mysterious to me, is how come I need reverence in order to have reverence? But if I don't have reverence yet, how could I ever be reverent, right? And if reverence is the revealing of the poverty of my ability to fully see what what's reverent, and that's what is the dropping to the knees and the praying to the thing that I'm reverent of, how do I get there without already being reverent in the first place? So what is that already? That's what's mysterious to me, this kind of precondition. Well, there's that sense of like, so I'm tracking this going in. So there's that sense in two where there's that, there is that revelation of my own perfection and imperfection right there. Somehow my imperfection is the prerequisite for the perfection to be revealed.
Yeah, it's already there.
Okay, so I want to just pause that. It is 11:45, so we have 15 minutes left. I'll say, how about we just go free form and just go into discussion, right? Sweet. I mean, here's the thing what's really alive to me is this wild, like that there's some say what I actually give, right? It's like the reverence is I give my imperfect gaze, right? And somehow see my own imperfect seeing, my own poverty of seeing to what I am revering, right? But yet somehow that not seeing breaks open my reverent position, right? So this perfection imperfection thing is just right there, right? In some sense. So that's the thing I'm really present to, is that sense. And also just the way in the dialogue, the way that it just felt like I think in Alaska, I was like, were we reverent in our discussion of reverence? Were we conforming with reverence as we were talking about reverence? Those are things. Those are questions. I felt like we were.
I felt like the 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 my awareness was of the imperfection of my own myopia, and nonetheless the aspirational part I I had, I can say I had that, where that's all I could offer. The rest isn't. It's beyond my purview. Yeah. But whether or not I was reverent, I don't know. But I know the aspirational. I had the aspirational was clear.
That hand gesture fills me with awe and wonder, but also mystery. we should just meditate for like 10 hours just on this movement.
Anything more, Daniel?
No, your last that was so much like I kind of like I had this when you just said beauty at one point. I think it was like now we can hang up the call.
Yeah.
It was all said, and that but yeah that movement of falling down, of being disarmed or so by that, right, all the beauty and the horror. That's I think also what you said, and it was also very very well said. That has this, I think that has this quality of goodness that wants us, despite it's so beautiful and maybe so horrifying, that we still want to keep aspiring to look at it and inquire it and realize it. then there's of course there's also this co-realization going on, this reciprocality that we were bringing up during our the practice. That this then really, right, also has an impact on our being. And now that this was really cool and really beautiful.
And as you're talking, Daniel, too, I'm thinking, well, it's, it's okay to, empty ourselves if we know it's going to be beautiful and wonderful in the end. But if it's horror that we're, emptying ourselves to, then the virtue of reverence is worth cultivating. Because who knows when we may have to drop to our knees at the horror.
So you're saying something, I want to pick up on that. Like, I think what you're saying is it may actually be that the virtue itself carries us. Even if, like, that you're saying that the virtue we should value it enough, because if we're virtuous, even if we're virtuous of the right thing, of the wrong thing, let's say, which I don't even know what that means, but it will developing and cultivating the virtue, right, will have us do this more often, and Daniel really likes that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we could maybe think of reverence even, right, as a habit, an ongoing habit, right?
Be still.
A habit of also falling down.
I mean, everybody talks about anxiety these days, and maybe we've found the virtuous antidote to anxiety.
Well, here's the thing about the anxiety. It's interesting too to think about intimacy here, right? Because I felt like there is this kind of way with virtue reveals the other grandly, powerfully, such that it puts me to my knees, right? Yet there's this kind of like, it's funny because I keep getting this sense of that if I'm the one who's receiving your virtue, and I turn and I really receive and I turn towards you, you're being in such a way that has me beyond myself in some sense. And now there's the reciprocal opening, right? But it's an interesting intimacy because it's got a distance to it. Like, and this is where maybe if we think about beauty and art in this way, art is this way where there's this kind of, it's beautiful, so it draws you in, right? The beauty, but it also has you stand back, right? All that stuff about aesthetics and, right, disinterest is what affords the beauty to come forward, right? So there's these two things interpenetrating each other, but there's this intimacy, strangely enough, in both my imperfection, my inadequacy, my emptiness, my poverty, right? That simultaneously reveals what I am before and what I'm reverent about, right? So in some sense, it connotates a distance. Yet somehow when I drop to my knees, I end up closer to what I'm revering, in some sense, by breaking as the emptiness, right? Like I'm kind of breaking, I'm providing that my poverty such that it gets to be, right? So in some sense.
Yeah. Because it is so worthy of reverence, so august, that it it's very there-ness, it necessitates this this, draw. It's just too
Right.
much to, to even,
Yeah.
yeah, stand erect
Yeah.
before.
Right.
Yeah. Hmm.
This is probably where the transjectivity is, right? And why there's kind of going back to there's the verticality,
Yeah.
right? This innate verticality, right? That this horizontal relation, it, playing these,
Oh.
it's like both going, yeah, it's like Daniel keeps paraphrasing all of these words.
Hmm.
This kind of interpenetration, this,
Mm.
yeah,
The cross.
yeah. That painting
That,
behind you, Daniel. Actually, it's funny. That's probably of the two fingers. That's probably I probably revered over that very image more than anything I ever have in my life for the longest
Yeah.
period of time. That image is probably the one I've revered the most.
Yeah. I've had that for a long, long time myself. Yeah. I had a bigger version.
yeah, it comes up, that image comes up on a regular basis,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like during the conversations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think it's kind of fitting to to what we are doing.
Because they don't touch.
Constant reminder of what we are attempting to do
Yeah.
in our
Yeah.
being reverent.
And if they touch, no one would ever look at that. It's
No.
it's precisely in there the incompletion of this thing, right? That
Exactly.
is where what's so
Yeah.
evocative about it, right?
Mm-hmm. The
Mm.
dynamic tension. Mm-hmm.
So this kind of yeah, there I think it's like in some sense it's telling of reverence in some way, but this kind of relation, this kind of intimacy that's distant and near at the same time, right? In this interchanging reciprocal openness, right? But it maintains the distance. Like that's part of it. Like I know I did some reading this between last week a little bit about reverence, and reverence is one of the virtues that they talk a lot about in China and Greece. That's what's interesting about it, right? And they both see it the same way. It's like the opposite of it isn't irreverence, it's arrogance or hubris, right? And all these practices around it. So in the Chinese version, like in Confucianism and stuff like that, my understanding is that there's a lot about reverence seems to be what's necessary and like the right relationship to leadership, right? And part of being reverent to your leader is being honest about criticizing him, right? That there's these, it's not just I give everything away, right? But my very reverence, right, is helps the leader be right size, right, in some sense, right? So there's an interpenetration of power, if you will, right? There's an openness that disposes of each other, right? This kind of back and forth that yet at the same time you need the hierarchy to stay in place for things to function. There's a reason why it's there, right? So there's it's important for that distance to be there, but there's ways that they interpenetrate each other and renew each other in that way, and reverence seems to be one of the virtues that does that, right?
Oh. And were there not that sharing of, criticism and so on, if there were it not there,
Yeah,
then the connection would just disintegrate.
totally. Yeah.
That cements the connection.
If you think about it, yeah, I guess if you think about it, like how am I being more reverent if I if I tell you the truth, if I respect you and I love you and respect you and admire you, am I being more reverent if I tell you the truth, if I'm critical of you too, right? If that's what's really true for me, like, am I being more reverent of you if I share it or if I don't share it, right?
And otherwise, it moves into it's a felt unreality if you withhold.
Yeah,
There's that element of unreality that starts to vitiate the whole
yeah, totally.
relationship. Right?
Anything for you,
I
Daniel?
just want I just want to say that for me now, that image is almost like a symbol of that kind of like paradoxical interpenetration, right? Guy, you were talking about the nearness and the distance simultaneously, and then we were talking about the perfection and the imperfection simultaneously. And it seems to me that is like a symbol of kind of like holding
Right,
in that space of paradoxes.
right.
Um,
Totally.
that was, I think, very beautiful, and I really appreciated that.
Mm,
Yeah,
all
that was
right.
wonderful. Yeah, thank you all. Thank you
Thank
both
you.
so
12 o'clock.
much.
This is
This was
gorgeous.
really
Yay.
special.
So, so do we want to pick another virtue for next week?
Sure.
Do we want to like sit with reverence and then come back with reverence and do it again?
Um, what
Or
about, would it be possible to kind of uh, not make a decision right now,
Mhm.
um, but see where it might go? I don't know. Do we
Sure.
have to decide before?
How about we do this? How about I'll upload this today and then
Yeah.
release it for tomorrow or something like that. How about if we watch it and then
Yeah.
let's decide
Oh,
sometime before next time. Yeah, let's watch it,
yeah, that's a
think
good
about it,
idea.
and propose something.
Yeah.
Okay?
And then let each other know how
Yeah,
we, yeah. Okay.
good to me.
Perfect. Yeah,
Yeah,
perfect. Just see where it, I mean, I think, I feel it's still moving.
yeah, yeah. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Great.
Bye.
Wow.
See you next
Okay.
week.
Bye.